Going to go ahead and get started here. So wanted to start the series, and something that's really been bouncing around in my head for quite a while now is about an agent's confidence level and where that comes from, knowing your value to you and to your client. I don't know if you ask agents, and I know particularly with newer agents, I often wonder if they ask why me, or why should they be using you as an agent versus none at all, or versus the agent next to you. How well people can confidently articulate that. Doing a lot of research on this and thinking quite a bit about it, I've come to land on 3 different places where I feel like knowing your value comes from. 1 is wisdom, 2, service, 3, emotional intelligence. I'll go through those real quick and then we'll jump in with Mike. With wisdom, it's not just the knowledge and experience that you gain as you do this job, but it's how you apply it, how you leverage it for your client. We talk a lot about having market knowledge. It means nothing if you don't know how to use it for your client. Service, it seems like it goes without saying that service is important in your value proposition, but some of the things that maybe are important within that, your accessibility. Do you answer your phone when your client calls? A lot of agents don't. Integrity, your follow through on you do what you say you're going to do. You tell them what you're going to do, you do it, then you tell them what you did. Listening, are you truly listening? Are you solving their problems? Are you going the extra mile? That's what good service is. And emotional intelligence, and that's not just empathy and understanding. You'll hear an agent buy a house or sell a house and like, wow, yeah, I really know what my client's going through right now. And that's true. You do get a real sense of empathy for that. But it's also your ability to regulate and control your emotions. It's an emotional purchase for most of these home buyers, home sellers. It's an emotional transaction. They need you to keep things under control. We had an agent here, I won't mention her name, but she was the world's worst at turning a molehill into a mountain. It might be something that was not that big of a deal, but it turned into a crisis city every time something popped up. And you can just imagine how that having that person as the trusted advisor is not providing value to the transaction. So with the continuing series here, starting here with Mike, very excited to have him as the first guest on what I'm calling knowing your value. But Mike Hargarten, just a quick introduction. He started with us in Phoenix a number of years ago, and then maybe some of you know and some of you don't, that we actually put Phoenix on ice for a year or so. And when we reopened it, we were super excited to have Mike back. And he was actually part of the reason why we made the decision to reopen it. So, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over here to Mike Hargarten. But Mike, how did you even get started in real estate?
First off, thanks for having me. Appreciate it. I got started in real estate. I was a teacher by trade. And I have 3 degrees in education. I have a bachelor's in social studies. I have a master's in special ed and another in administration. And, I love teaching. I like helping people out. And my wife got pregnant, like 5 years ago. And they pay teachers in lane changes. And they got rid of the lane change in pay. And I looked at that and I go, oh my gosh, they just took $8,000 out of my account for the next 20 years. I'm not quite sure this is going to be able to sustain a family and a lifestyle I want for my family. So I started taking the classes when my wife got pregnant, and got into real estate, got my license. And then I thought maybe, honestly, I was just going to keep teaching and sell 2 or 3 homes a year, make some extra money, be able to take my family on vacation or go to Disneyland. Well, I started working with you guys and the leads are good and they're solid. And next thing you know, I was selling a home a month while teaching full time. And that's when I decided I need to make a real career out of this.
And so when we put the pause button on in Phoenix, we had left, but what was the main reason why you were excited to come back?
You guys scared the crap out of me when that happened. So this is crazy. Okay, so I go, oh my God, I'm working with this company. I'm selling a house a month from them, and then I'm doing my own thing too. If I could do 2 a month, wow, things are great. I put in my notice with Mesa Public Schools, and 2 weeks later, I got the information that you guys were folding up here. And it scared the living crap out of me. You know, what am I going to do? Like I was getting fed leads. This is the thing in this industry. You know, if you're great, if you could sell ice to an Eskimo, but you can't get in front of the Eskimo, what good are you? So I was scared to death. And so I went out, but I believe in myself. I know, you know, my background's good. When people say jump, I say how high. I answer my phone religiously. I'll answer the phone at 4 o'clock in the morning. So what I had to do is I went out and I paid a lot of money for internet leads. And I went to a company and just worked, you know, I asked my title rep, who would you work with? And he recommended somebody, great guy. I worked with him, but I sold over 30 some homes within that first year, and three of them were leads generated by him. 3. That's not right, you know? And so when it was like tax season, I called you guys up. I said, I need my forms. By the way, are you going to open up shop back here in Phoenix? And you said, well, funny you should ask, sir, because yeah, we're definitely thinking about it. And so as soon as you guys came back, I was all aboard and ready to jump back in.
You've had a ton of success with the leads, and some agents have better success than others. What's been your secret to success with the leads?
I would say less is more. I just want to make an appointment. I don't want to talk all day long, because inevitably if you talk too much, they're going to tell you, yeah, they're working with an agent or whatever. I don't care if they're working with an agent. That's great. I just want to meet you at the house, and then I'm going to bring with me things that separate myself from the pack. I'm going to have an awesome CMA that blows the doors. And I've showed this to like investors and guys that I work with in Scottsdale, and like, this is the best CMA I've ever seen. I just, 90% of communication is nonverbal. And I feel if I get in front of somebody and show them what I can do, so this, many people don't. Also in my 20s, I was a project manager with Polti Homes for 7 years. I used to manage 40 homes at a time, wear hard hat and boots. And so that's what I don't build slow relationships. I go right for it. I go, look, there's 80,000 people in the state that do my job. I promise you not one of them wore hard hat boots, managed 40 homes at a time. And I'm here to take care of you, you know?
How have you leveraged that experience with Polti into the job you're doing now? Do you bring it up to your clients right away?
Immediately. I do. I know. I mean, like everybody's like path is different. I don't go slowly about building a relationship. Either I'm your guy or I'm not. And 9 times out of 10, I'm going to be your guy. And what I tell them is my experience is going to be your advocacy. Okay. When we go down and we try and negotiate price, I know these homes from the inside and out. When we go to the home inspection process, nobody knows these homes better than me. And like, I believe it and they believe me saying it, you know?
Yeah. And so from what I was talking about at the top, with confidence being, in my opinion, the key to having it is from knowing your value proposition. Where does your confidence come from? Because you're a very confident individual. Even when you were doing this part-time and still teaching, you had that, for lack of a better way to put it, Mike, you had the swagger right from the beginning.
I don't know. I work hard. I live here in Arizona, but I grew up in the Midwest. My dad drove a truck for 30 years. I put myself through college, hanging drywall and driving front end loaders and doing all this hard stuff. So to me, when I got the job with Polti and I would see 25 and 30-year-old guys running $100 million projects, they demonstrated to us that it doesn't matter how old you are, it matters how good you are. And so I kind of grew up thinking, oh, you always got to earn your stripes, you got to earn your stripes. And the reality is if you're good, just go for it. And so I go, nine out of 10 people fail in this business. I'm going to be the 10%. There's no way I'm going to fail. And I looked at the people that were successful and I go, I can do what they're doing.
Where does that drive come from? You have a lot of drive. What's the ambition? What are you shooting for here?
I do. I love when people tell me no. When I first got into this, my family, not my wife. My wife is super supportive. She's great. But a lot of family and friends are like, oh, wow, Mike's going to be a realtor, And so I love proving people wrong, man, But in the same sense, I want to take care of my family. That's what it is. If teaching paid a fair amount, not oodles of money, but just a fair amount, it's the difference in pay for Arizona versus Illinois, where I'm from, is night and day. if they paid a fair amount here, I would still be teaching. But they don't. And so I want to be able to, my wife's from Oregon. I want to be able to have my wife and kids leave this heater. It's going to be 107 next Friday, to be able to get out of Arizona, go to Oregon and cool off. And I mean, look, I'm 42 years old and I'm still paying off my enormous debt that I acquired from my education. I don't want my kids to have to go through that. I want to be able to have enough funds to provide them with the experience of like going to college and not coming out with a ton of debt.
So if someone that goes into teaching probably wasn't driven by money in the beginning, correct me if I'm wrong about that. It's got to be in your heart and your soul maybe to be a teacher. And so getting into a 100% commission sales job, how has that changed what's motivated you?
I'm not money motivated. I'm not. I think that's a big thing with me is like, look, during this coronavirus, I had a couple houses fall out and there goes 20 grand. And I always tell this to my wife, I go, all this is a shell game. You get money, it goes here, it goes there. You got to pay your taxes. You got to pay for your, you got to pay for your internet leads and this and that. So to me, I approach it like this. Like I get paid when I do the job done and do it right. I never count that money. If when it goes into my account, fantastic. And I'm about the not the right now, but the 5 years from now. So if I treat all the people right in the way that they should be treated, my job is going to be a lot easier 5 years from now because I'm going to work off word of mouth and they're going to be referring me to people. And so I just treat people, again, like I've got a lot of college degrees. The things that I learned are valuable to me. I learned at Polti Homes and I learned from the 7 Habits of Highly Successful People. And just try and exceed expectations and take care of people. And eventually, if you're good at what you do, then it's going to come to fruition.
So for your value proposition, why you? How are you helping your clients save time, save money?
Right. I mean, I do like really lean on the fact that I was a new home build construction manager and I know the homes from inside and out. Another thing that I like I forward them to my Zillow profile and they can see like all 5-star reviews. I say, look, I can beat my chest all day long and tell you I'm the greatest thing since sliced bread, but why don't you just look at what my clients have had to say? And so I'll forward them that. And then also I'll let them know, like, I'm not a rookie. I'm in the top 3% for sales. And I think that's a 4-letter word. I hate the word sale. I'm your advocate. And that's why I get transactions done. And just like when we were talking here before we started on this thing, I'm going up against a cash deal right now and my buyer is not cash. She's going to send me the counter and we're going to get that done. Well, why is that? Because I have the conversations, because I'm not a jerk. You know what I'm saying? There's a lot of people in this industry that just send an offer and they pray to God it happens. I am on the phone 24/7 trying to explain why my buyers are the best proposition for the sellers.
Maybe before some of the people were on, you were saying something about answering the phone at 4:00 in the morning. And I was talking about accessibility. I want to stick with the value proposition here for a minute, but what else is coming into play with the process that you were, and one of the questions I had sent you, I guess that I really wanted to ask was, what would the buyers or sellers miss if you weren't there?
A lot, right? I mean, like when I read that initially, like it's a lot. And yeah, there's 80,000 people that do my job. Everybody knows 12 realtors. I'm the one-stop shop here. That's what I tell them. And again, this is all, my first meeting with somebody is an hour. We're not, anybody could go and show you a house and then leave and you're done in 5 minutes. I am there with my iPad, with presentations, and I'm there to let them walk out of the house knowing that I'm their realtor. So why is that? Well, I've got a trusted lender. We're up against multiple offers on a house that was $750,000. And you know why they chose our offer? Because the selling agent looked at my Zillow profile, sees that I know what I'm doing, looked at my lender, sees all of his, over 100 5-star reviews, and they realized that we're professionals and we're going to get it done. Hey, this is a 20-year-old home. I have a 20-year-old home. When I walked in, I had to get a new roof and new ACs. And that's the way it is in Arizona. It's different. I will refer people to you, that only people that have worked on my house. So look, you need a contractor, great. You need an AC guy, I've got it. You need a painter, got it. Whatever you need, I've got it. And so that's the issue, right? Is like there's so many moving parts here, and people can feel overwhelmed. Or I could say, guess what? I've got all this for you. Like that's my job, is to handle this. Not in 30 days, we're going to be done, and I'm going to hand you the keys. It's going to be beautiful.
Well, from the beginning, if you were going to go back in time and talk to the guy that was doing this part-time a few years ago, what are a couple of the lessons you've learned since then?
That's a good question. So when you guys kind of left town, I was kind of trying to like reinvent the wheel as to like what you guys do, which is the targeted prospecting and like geofencing and all. I spent, honestly, I mean, thousands and thousands of dollars in trying to like get in front of people that are wanting to buy or sell homes. Because to me, it always comes down to two things. How are you getting in front of people that want to buy or sell? And what are you doing when you get in front of them? You know? And so that's why I'm so glad that you guys are back in town and here, because you are a big help for that, you know? So like my brother's recently joined with Hargarten, and he's asking about Facebook, you know, this and that and the other thing. And I'm like, to be honest, just work the Hargarten stuff, man, because you don't need to throw money at it. They're getting you in front of people. It's going to take about 2 or 3 months to build up a solid amount of clients in your backlog, but by about month 3, you should expect to start hitting one a month. And he's doing the work, and he's hustling, and he believes in it, and he's seeing it through the leads coming in.
You had talked about spending an hour with your client, you know, in that first meeting. When you're talking with someone on the phone, maybe it's a lead that you got from us or some other place, how much time do you spend on that initial phone call?
I hope 90 seconds. I just want to make the appointment to show them the house. That's it for me. Because here's what I've seen it where you're trying to have this nice conversation, and you're on it for 5 or 10 minutes, and they're bringing up how they've got a realtor or whatever. Nothing good typically is coming up. Set the appointment and meet them face to face. That's the way I like to do it.
How are you building enough value in 90 seconds to make sure they show?
So good question. When we're done, I will send them a couple of like graphics that I have, like one that's like, hey, I negotiated $35,000 off this price, and Aruj helped me with a lot of this stuff, you know? So I'll text that over. I'm not a huge fan of like phone calls, emails. Everybody checks their text messages. So I like to text. I like to send a lot of video text, I think, as you know. I've got like one of these little gadgets. I guess I can kind of yank it here, like, right? One of these, it's on my desk, and I'll shoot them over a video. Hey, super excited. I don't want to get into a discussion with them. I just want them to know, super excited. The house is fantastic. Can't wait to meet you. By the way, here's one of my client testimonials from a Scottsdale investor that spends millions of dollars on homes. Read what he's had to say about me, and then here's my Zillow profile. That's it. And then I meet him at the house.
I mean, if anyone walks away from at least one thing today walks away with at least one thing, that should be it. Just exactly how I would have guessed, and I would have been wrong, that you would have said you were on the phone for 15, 20 minutes, maybe building that rapport, building the value, but you're getting them excited about the property and then following it up with the video text or with the information that, you know, keeps their momentum moving forward. How are you using the IMS to help manage your business?
I do. Yeah, it's useful. So when you guys left, I had to figure out, what am I doing? And then I purchased Lion Desk, and you know, and then you guys came back. It's like, you don't need 2 of these things. And again, it goes back to Polti. We had that's when people used to have those physical, I forget what they were called, but they were like, we had training on like how to use your calendar, basically, you know, and it's like, put everything in one spot. Otherwise you're going to lose it. So I use IMS a bunch. I use it for the updates, reminders. The HOTS are obviously great because then you know. I have it set up where I have like 8 different text messages ready to go. So like I always start off with the first one, like a dual close. like, hey, thanks for, and it puts in their name and seems very personal. Hi, Johnny, thanks a lot for looking at the homes in Mesa and this neighborhood. What time would you like to see it tomorrow? Would 10 o'clock work or 6 p.m. better? That's it. And then I send it to them, and I'm usually going to get a response like, oh, great, 6 p.m. is better, or I'm not interested. Oh, good. When's going to be a better time? Do you think in 6 months? I'm just trying to get a conversation going.
Okay. Real quick, Mike, I'm just going to ask the group here and see if anyone has any questions and see what we got out there. If you got a question, just unmute yourself and lay it on us.
Hey, Mike, I've heard a lot about pre-listing packets. Do you have one that you send to listings before you show up for the appointment?
Yeah, that's a good question. So I will create a CMA, and I'll have that right here. Here's what I provide when I go into the listing appointment. CMA, showing them that. And then I utilize Zillow a lot. And I think that we've talked about this. And a lot of people like scoff or laugh or what. You know what? People think Zillow is reality. Perception is reality. And what I can show in my last now 6 listings is homes being listed, like their Zestimate being, let's see, the current house I have right now at $369,000, okay, $369,000. And I go, we're going to list it at $399,000. Your home is actually worth like $375,000, okay? But I'm willing to bet $50 that when we list this home at $399,000, magically your Zestimate is going to go to $399,000, and people are looking at homes on Zillow a bunch, and now they go, oh, it's fairly valued. And I'm getting those values, and I'm getting people to purchase the home at that price or maybe a little bit less. But then I'm also meeting the appraiser at the home to kind of justify what's going on and still getting that price. So this honestly has happened in the last like 6 homes that I've listed. And so when people, it really crushes a lot of discussions. I don't get the, well, why 6% or whatever. Look, I'm going to make you 20 grand more. And I've shown that in the last, 6 homes that I've done. And
how do you show that to them prior to the appointment though? Are you just sending them like that data, or how are you showing that to them?
I like to kind of keep my information to myself until I get in front of people. Even like pre-listing, I'm just kind of having a conversation and just making sure that they're happy, and I'll provide them like I'll call it a soft market analysis, right? But I can't give you a true market analysis until I get inside your home and see what that looks like. So again, I kind of try to limit, just give them like a little bit of nuggets of information, show them my past production, let them know again that I used to be a project manager. I know this stuff inside and out, and when is a good time so we can discuss this in person. And it's good. But the thing is, like, I'm not trying to be like salesy. It's not a pitch. It's like, it's reality. I talked to, I wrote some of the stuff down I wanted to make sure I talk about. I like to talk in quantities, numbers, right? When I was a teacher, I used to be a math teacher. Numbers don't lie, okay? So here's another thing that I'll talk about with people is they're like, oh my God, should I buy now? Like, I think home prices are going to drop, this and that. And I'll say, all right, I'm talking with one of my neighbors. He's looking at mine, a $570,000 house. We look at that. You put 20% down, and interest rates at 3.85. Your monthly mortgage here in Arizona is about $2,400 a month. If that same interest rate in October goes to 6.5, your payment's now $3,100 a month. That's a pretty nice Lexus and a boat, right? So if I told you that you can get that house right now for $2,400 a month, and you want to buy, what are you waiting for? Because the alternative is terrible. Your purchasing power just went down $125,000 or so.
Any other questions out there for Mike? And we'll get back into mine here, but I want to make sure we stop every now and again and see if people have specific.
I've got one. Hey, Mike, when you were first starting out, did you ever make a really big mistake? And so, oh man, I lost the deal because I did this, and I'm never ever going to do this again. You have a story like that?
Yeah, for sure, right? We all do. I mean, like here's a for instance. I had most of my sales are on the buy end, and so sometimes when you're like listing, it's kind of a different ball game, and contracts are different here. So I had a contract where it was contingent. They took the offer, but their original home wasn't going to close for like a month and a half. And in Arizona, there's no real timeline for getting an appraisal. So we've got the earnest money. We're good. We're through the home inspection process. We firmed up details, but now my listing is frozen for a month and there's no recourse. There's nothing I can do. And so what I've learned from that is I need to write like a counter or an addendum that states, the appraisal will be done within 10 days following the inspection period or something like that. And yeah, so, and you know what, and this brings up a good point too, is this is where I lean on Heather and Stacy, the division president and broker here in Phoenix. I'm doing well, but gosh, I don't know it all, not even close. And I think that's why clients appreciate me too, is empowerment's the key to life, right? And so I have the best expert lender. I have your expert contractor, an expert roofer, but I'm your expert realtor. And so we all kind of come together and work as a team. And I can say this truthfully, I've been with a couple of different organizations, and mostly real estate is super cutthroat and individual sport, and how much money can you make me is kind of like what the broker's thinking. And that's absolutely not true with Hargarten. I ask questions, I give phone calls, and I get answers because people actually care. There is a good culture here.
Thanks a lot.
Don, do you have another question? Okay.
No, that was it.
Great, thank you. Do you prefer buyers versus sellers? Or how do you want that to grow? Which side, or if one more than the other?
In a perfect world, you get the seller and a buyer. Here in Arizona, we get a lot of people just straight up buying because they're coming from out of state, or they're buying a secondary home. So to make my business easier, I would love to acquire sellers, and then they eventually become buyers too. So right now I have one local person. I found them a $750,000 house, and then we listed their home at 400. Okay, great. So there's $1 million, right? Like, well, goodness, if I could get 15 clients like that in a year, that would be fantastic. But I'm glad to work with anybody. And I think that's my clients notice that, like, I don't care if you're buying a $100,000 condo or an $800,000 new build, everybody deserves the same respect, gets answers. I answer the phone. I'm not like, oh, it's a $100,000 deal. Look, that's somebody's house, and they all take pride in it the same.
You had mentioned earlier about typically getting, and I think almost always getting a full 6% commission when you're doing the listing. How often are you getting pushback on that? Or you mentioned how you're avoiding the pushback a little bit. Maybe you could elaborate on that.
Yeah. Oh, and it is difficult for sure. Sometimes I'll have to move it, and it just is what it is. Here's what I kind of started doing recently is, and I wanted to talk about this anyway, like kind of doing outside the box marketing. I am on the Chandler Youth Baseball board, and I help out with their marketing. And so I go to all these businesses, and they pay like $500 and they get a banner. We put that in the outfield. Okay. But now I'm woven into the fabric of Chandler Youth Baseball. I'm in the board, et cetera. Well, me and my preferred lender have paid for like 3 of these banners, right? I want one in every field. And we've put together an incentive program. Like, how much is it? I think it's like $1,800. So I'm going to pay, this is how I'm trying to get sellers and buyers. Okay. I'm going to pay $300, your broker fee on the sell side. I'm going to pay your broker fee on the buy side. So we're at $600. My lender is going to pay for your appraisal. So that's $500. And when you do both transactions with me, I'm going to give you extra $500 towards your closing costs on the second sale. So they go, oh, wow, I'm getting all this money. So they're already getting something. I'm giving but we don't have to talk about the 6%. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
yeah.
Law of reciprocity. A couple more questions that I sent you. I want to make sure we get to. What's your favorite client story?
So I was working with this gal, Mercy. She was a Hargarten lead. And I just use this with my brother too, is like, this is why you have to treat everybody the same, and everybody deserves the same respect. Because this is a referral business. So this is when I was teaching. Okay. So I was like running the 8th grade dance. So I like taught all day till like 4 o'clock. I ran and showed her a house, wrote the contract before the 8th grade dance, ran the 8th grade dance, and finally got her in. She got in the house. She loves it to death. She is my biggest cheerleader of all times. She is a mortgage processor. She used my preferred lender. She referred her friend, Gabby, to buy with us. They bought with us. And right now I'm working with Gabby's son, and I'm showing him a place tonight. And Mercy's cousin or nephew, I'm working with him right now.
Wow.
And that's how $200,000 worth of sales turns into $1 million, you know? And she's like, she'll send me texts like, I told him, you know, you're the bomb.com and all that. I love that. You know, I tell people it's sad, but true. I get more hugs and kisses and everything from being a realtor than when I was a teacher. But it's great. And I love it. I like to help people. I think that shines through, and it's awesome when people refer me to their friends and family.
Who's the best cooperating agent you ever did a deal with, and why?
I would say it was recently. This was a Hargarten lead, and I had already sold this home twice. It was a listing, and then they became a buy. The listing fell out twice. This is during Corona. And so the third one came, and we're like vacationing. There's a place called Rocky Point, Mexico, that's about 4 hours from Chandler. You drive there. We're in Rocky Point in March. Actually, yeah, it was March. And it's my wife's birthday, and I get a phone call, hey, we want the property. So I spent all day in the hotel room. I'm at the beach having drinks. I'm in the hotel room doing a deal. And so we got the deal done, and we had issues with the appraisal and stuff like that. And she was just a professional. There's some people that are like, don't get it. Like, there's a difference. You can advocate for your client, but don't get in your client's way and not let them capture the home, right? So there was for instance that came up where we were going to give a concession, and she was like, why don't we take that off the purchase price? You know, and instead of using it as a concession towards closing costs. And I'm like, thank you. And we needed that, and it happened, and it worked, and the client was happy. Look, everybody was happy in the end. I mean, realistically, it probably would have been a little bit nicer for her client if they got that as a closing cost concession. But she's just like, she was a pro. She knew what it take to get it done. We had constant, clear communication. And there's a lot of people out there that don't want to talk or talk to my transaction coordinator, you know, like, hey, and you know what, she was this is why we got along so well. So my teaching career is kind of versatile. And at one point I taught for 4 years in like a self-contained classroom for students with emotional disabilities. It was very, very, very challenging. And she was a nurse with that kind of same population. So we both have always been faced with like so much drama, like how much drama really is in a real estate transaction compared to this other stuff. And so she was a pleasure to work with.
On the flip side, because it's so important, I don't know, who knows what other meetings are happening across the country where one of our agents is getting brought up as the best client they've ever worked with, or best cooperating agent they've ever worked with. Or on the flip side, the not so great. What agent stands out to you as someone you did a transaction with? It was just terrible, and why?
I think it's the same. It's the non-communication, you know, and Yeah, we had one going for like a long time, and the guy he would never be responsive. And then you're showing up to the house, you can't even get into the house because they don't give you the CBS code. Then you show up the next time to do a walkthrough, they've removed the lockbox and it's on a mechanical lockbox, so they're not giving you the code. And just super just like that's a transaction guy, And I've had a couple of them, and like I just had a transaction with the guy from Sotheby's, Sotheby's, and he's a salesman. He was like, we got the deal done, and as soon as it was done, he sent everything to his transaction coordinator, and I'm like sending a million messages back and forth, like, this is not done. This is not done. We did the final walk. This stuff's not done, and we're not closing. Okay. And I've done it before where I've opened up my pocketbook and sent the guy out there to fix the irrigation and that kind of stuff. And just like, I'm done doing that. I'm going to hold people accountable. You guys said you were going to do this, get it done. And after about 50 messages of this guy not chiming in, I finally said, hey, David, feel free to chime in, brother, because we're not closing tomorrow if you can't get this fixed. And, it finally did, but just, there's no reason for it. You're not above anybody. You're, like if you're really trying to get it done, then talk it out, You
had mentioned a little bit ago, COVID-19, and just curious how it's affected you and your business. What's changed for you, if anything?
Yeah, it's very different here. Again, I'm rooted in Chicago. A lot of my family lives there, and I know that like it's very different there versus what it is here. I sold a house where the owner had COVID-19. Okay. I haven't missed a beat. I've worked 7 days a week since this has been going on. Now I'm a little nervous and I'm washing my hands. I have a 7-month-old baby. I come home, I'm washing, I'm scrubbing up before I touch my kid, stuff like that. I had a couple of transactions that fell out. I did. They were 2 days away from closing and people just kind of flaked. Here's what I can say though. I don't know what the numbers are, but I think I sold like 4 homes in the last week and a half. It's back to like super normal. People kind of, I don't want to say don't care, but they're back to normal and we're out showing and they're aggressive. And I know it's very different. Look, I have a lot of friends and family back in Illinois, and they're still kind of towing the line, but I think it's kind of done. Like what I've seen affected me happened very early on, and now they're fine with it.
What precautions did you take when you sold that home with the seller that had COVID?
So
how'd you go?
Yeah, it was more a logistic issue. It was like, it was a flipped home. And again, this was the Hargarten lead where I sold the listing 3 times and then ended up being their buying agent too. So it was, the owner was an agent, and so like, how much was he really in the house? The reality was though, he was in the hospital. And so that was the hard part, was trying to get like people to get documents over to him for signatures, and try and take care of it. But when I went to that house, I just simply had gloves and I had a mask and that was it. And my buyers, I gave them same thing. I had gloves and mask if they wanted it. And the tone is quite different here is all I can say concerning the COVID deal.
Okay. We had a question from Robin Page in Indianapolis asking, what do you use for a CMA?
I was going to pull it up here. It's RPR, and I forget what it stands for. But I know a lot of guys like just use like the MLS and this and that. And it's kind of a good point is you should learn something from everybody, even if that person is not the best. So the person that actually taught me this was the guy that ran my garden into the ground here when he was in Phoenix. But I took that with me and I use it every time I meet somebody. So it's an RPR. You can go in and you can select what you want. But it ends up being this like mammoth, 70-page report that looks like you worked on it for 2 years. And it's not. And all I'm worried about is taking the houses that match what I think, right? So if this home is worth $500,000 and there's 1 million comps, I want to pull out 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 houses that agree with what I'm saying. And then that's what I'm going to present to the seller or the buyer, saying, look at these homes and price per square foot, lot size, all sold within 6 months in a mile radius of your home. This is why I think it's this.
Scott Myers in Denver, Realtors Property Resource. There you go. Now you know.
Yes.
So what 1 or 2 things are you focused on in your business right now? Anything specific, from whether it's marketing, appointment setting, anything within your business it's got your focus?
Yes. Like I've kind of tried it all, but I think I do pay for the speed for lead stuff, and that's what, and that my phone is glued to my hand. Okay. So, I just sold a new build home, 600 plus. It's a Zillow lead, and we're on the flex system out here. And so, yeah, Zillow's going to take their 35%. You don't want 65% of a $600,000 house, because I do, right? And then what's the other, not Realtor.com, but the free one where they take 35% to, I'll look it up real quick here.
OpCity.
OpCity. Yeah. I mean, how are you getting in front of people? So that's what I look. So that's kind of like a grand view, but then I'm looking local. I live in Chandler. A lot of people buy homes in Chandler. I want to be Chandler expert. So how am I doing that? And that's why I got, partially why I got involved with Chandler Youth Baseball, and I'm on the board, and I go to those board meetings. And when things get really back to normal, baseball season started up, you're going to see my banners all over. And I've already done a transaction with a Chandler Youth Baseball family member. So kind of look macro and micro, but I've also got where I get too confused and I look at a million different things. And so the things that I'm doing best right now is just working my speed to leads, working my Hargarten leads, and working the baseball stuff. When I first started out, I didn't have such a tremendous backlog. So this brings up one good best practice that I've heard before is I want 5 appointments a week. I want to keep 3 of them. I want to close 1 of them. And so I go, how am I getting 5 appointments? Well, you know what? I'm going to have more than 5 appointments this week, so I don't have to worry about that. But when I first started out, I did. So I would make my own appointments. I would go on Zillow and look at for sale by owners and see who's having open houses. And I'd prepare a CMA and show up to their house and say, hey, I hope you sell this home on your own. I really do. In fact, my dad went for sale by owner for 3 weeks, and then he got sick of it. When you get tired of doing this and you need an expert to help you, here's what I think you really could sell it for, and I'd be glad to do it. That's an appointment, in my book.
Yeah. Did it work?
A couple times, a couple times. And that's same thing with open houses and stuff. It's not the stuff you love, but have I sold homes that way? I have, and you got to do whatever you got to do in those first couple, 2-3 years to grind out to what's your goal. And my goal this year was to sell over 30 homes. My goal was 15 million. And I thought I was going to nail it easily, but I did have $1 million drop out with the COVID. I had a $1 million buyer that was ready to go by May, and we wrote out other contracts. He's a doctor, and he slowed down. So I've kind of regressed. And I go, okay, well, I want to at least hit 10 million. So you look at that and go, all right, well, how am I going to do 10 million? And kind of create those little buckets. My bucket is Hargarten, my bucket is speed to lead, and then my bucket is Chandler Youth Baseball. And to be honest, I'm working 7 days a week by just focusing on those things. I'm not twiddling my thumbs saying, what am I going to do to get in front of people?
You're definitely not. We had a question from Rick Witten in Indianapolis. He wanted if you could cover again how you list the home and update the Zestimate to equal the list price, if you could go back over that.
Yeah, and it might be different, state to state or whatever, but and they just changed how things are done here too. So we used to have a 2-week coming soon. So you could put you could put a home in the MLS, and you could put it on Zillow, and it was in a coming soon status. It wasn't live. So I would always use the coming soon. I would get my post and sign out there. I would take just a couple pictures, just a little bit to get people interested, and I throw it out there coming soon. And then I would put my link on Facebook, Because to me, and you don't know this like 100%, but to me, it's like an algorithm. And how many clicks can you get on that Zillow profile? And when it does, then I think it increases that estimate, right? So I would send it to cyberspace. I might pay for a professional video and have that done and send that out to Facebook and stuff like that. But when that 2-week period hit, then I listed that home on Thursday, let's say at 400 grand. The last 6 times in a row that I have done this, if the estimate was like at 380, the day it went live, from coming soon to live, it magically went to $400,000. I don't know if that's because I'm a Zillow Premier agent or whatever it is. I never tell people I guarantee it's going to happen, but I can say in the last 6 times I've done it, this is how it's happened.
Anyone else have any questions out there? Want to turn it over to the group here real quick. And if anyone has any other insight on what Mike's talking about with Zillow there, I'd love to hear that story. Mike, we had a question. Since you like talking on the phone, when a speed delete is unresponsive, how do you handle it? I've heard you just keep calling. What do you do? Or do you just go with those that want to talk, set the appointment, and get them? I've seen that it seems those that want to connect in the first call turn into sales. What about the others? How persistent are you if you can't get a hold of them right away?
That question is correct from my experience. I mean, they come in and I'm not saying I quit on them, but if I get somebody on the phone and they're interested, and I think the average person is converting about 3% of these leads. And I haven't done a real calculation in a while, but I was at like 16%. If, the phone is glued to me, these are shared leads, right? And I am the first person to call, and I'm telling them why I'm the right guy. We make the appointment and we go. So now if people don't answer, I'm sending a video text. I think to me that's what separates me tremendously from anybody else is, again, people think it takes like a lot of time. Like it doesn't. I have Apple clips on my phone. I set up the video. Hey, I see you're interested at 123 Smith Street. Good news. It's available. I can't wait to show it to you. In fact, I live right here in Chandler. I'm the Chandler expert. Can't wait to meet you. When's a good time to see it? People will watch the video. They will. You send it to their email? I don't think they're going to. How many of those do you get to your email and you're like, whatever, you delete? Phone call, you're like, I don't know this number, and you don't answer it. People always clear out their text messages. And if I can do a quick 30-second video introducing myself, again, languages are, like, what is it? 90% of language is body language. So there's, right? And so I think that's a big deal. They're way harder to convert, 100%, but I'm not going to quit. And they stay in my backlog and I try and get them. Now here's another thing I'm doing too. And this is like, I'm starting to build a team out here. And so I will also send those leads to my brother. And we've got 2 guys, when things start getting back to normal, I've got 2 guys that have passed the class, but they can't take the test yet because the testing place is not open. So now I'm gonna have a couple more guys work with me. So now we got 4 people that can work these leads. So if they're serious, we're going to get them. And if they were just a looky-loo, they're going to get bothered. And all they have to do is tell us, I'm not interested or sorry, or you know what I mean? And we'll stop. But
So the video text is working for you. How often are you getting a response from that?
a lot. And I had a friend too that's in Las Vegas. He works for a different group. And he said, we went through our backlog of people and sent, all these video texts. And there was, like they did like half regular text and half video text, and the response rate was off the charts. It's very personal,
Yeah. Oh,
not a mass text.
Hopefully every single person watching makes that change if they aren't already doing it. Real quick, any more questions out there for Mike? Unmute yourself.
Question.
Good. Yeah. Hi, Tracy.
Hey, Mike. So for we're a kind of a vacation destination, and we get a lot of people from, and kind of, I'm sure that you do, from out of state. When the Hargarten lead comes in, and I guess 2 questions: how are you overcoming just looking, and what are you doing for leads that might not be ready to, they're a year, 6 months down the road? How are you following up on those?
Yeah, great question. So I do a couple of things, and I'm not sure if this is preferred or not, but I like to have the conversation with them that I want to get you an MLS search going. My website's great. I call it the Hargarten site mine, which is very nice that my last name is Hargarten and I work for Hargarten. Everybody thinks I own the place. I don't. So I want to get you a very accurate description. So I want to hear what you have to say, and I'm going to get you an MLS search. And if they're 6 months or a year out, maybe they don't want to have something hitting their email every day or ASAP. Hey, how about I set this up to just like 3 times a week, and you can kind of glance and, hey, when's the next time you think you're going to come in town? Oh yeah, we're definitely coming in March. We booked our flights. Boom, right in the MLS or the IMS. I'm going to put in 30 days before that date. Is Johnny still coming into town? And give him a phone call. And so I just, I'll make phone calls once a month. We've had the conversation. I've set up the MLS search for them. They trust me. I can look at my email and see that they're looking at homes. So I don't want to bother them. But to me, once a month is good. But when I want to know when they're coming. And I want to say, look, I want to clear out my calendar and make sure I give you just enough time because, I once transitioned from Chicago, and I know how exhausting and confusing it can be. And I want to make sure we get you in the right spot. So I'm going to block out these 3 days for you.
Thank you. I think that was kind of where I was going, is how do you get that appointment when you don't know when? I guess asking that question is good. I like that.
Thanks.
Any other questions? Go ahead.
This is Don. Can you hear me?
Yes.
The other young lady who's how to overcome the objection. I'm just looking. I've been doing this for a while, and this works almost 90%, 95% of the time. When I say I'm just looking, I say, what are you looking for? And they will tell you what they're looking for. Very few times, will they say something like, I know it when I see it, or we're just thinking about it. And if that doesn't work, you say, well, what caused you to look in the first place? But most of the time when you say, what are you looking for? It works like a champ.
Thank you, Don. Absolutely. Any other questions out there? Well, if we don't have other questions, I'm going to end this Agent Spotlight series, Knowing Your Value, with a little questionnaire that reminds me of what James Lipton on Inside the Actor Studio would do. Also, there's a podcast I listen to that's actually Alan Alda called Clear and Vivid. It's about communication. Great podcast. I highly recommend it. But he also has a kind of a final questionnaire that he asks his people. And then I threw in a couple questions of my own. But these are meant to be somewhat quick hitters, Mike. I'm sure you'll have some great answers. Number one, what's a proud moment from your childhood?
That's a great question. Yeah, I kind of hate getting people saying congratulations and good job, So I guess I was always pretty good baseball player, and so that was always fun, being on the all-star team and being a part of that with my friends.
Okay. What's an embarrassing moment that happened to you that's now funny?
Again, this has to do with baseball. So when you get old enough, I don't know, maybe it was 12 or so, they let you become an umpire for the baseball games. And they're like, look, here's the thing though. Don't ever reverse your call. Make your call and stick to it. All right. So I'm umping the game, and I was behind the plate ump, but there was no base ump either. So I was doing the whole thing, and I was new to this. And there's a ground ball to shortstop, and the guy throws it to second base, and guy tags the base, and I'm like, safe, and it was a force out play. The guy was out, but I said safe, and I realized that after the fact, and I'm like, but these guys told me I can't change my call. And so I just said, safe. And I had all these parents wanting to kill me and every other thing, and I'm like, all right, sometimes adults are wrong. I think maybe sometimes you can reverse your call,
Being a referee is a tough job. I respect them. This is one from Alan Aldous. How do you stop a compulsive talker? How do you stop a compulsive talker?
I'm not good at it. I unfortunately kind of let them talk a whole bunch. If it gets to honestly, I've been on the phone 20 minutes, 30 minutes, And if it gets to that point, you know, I've got to say, okay, like, so I'll repeat to them like what we're talking about. So let me just make sure that I understand. You're looking for this, you're looking for that. I'm going to send you an email connecting you with my local lender, and I'm going to set up your search. Does all that sound helpful? Yes. All right, great. Once that's set up, I'm going to get in contact with you 5 days. Have a great evening. You know?
That's good. No, you're using yes or no questions to end it. What do you wish you really understood?
Why at 42 years old, I've already had one knee replacement and I need another one.
Must have been the baseball.
Yeah.
How do you like to deliver bad news?
No, that's a great question. And this is an old teacher trick for sure. It's called a sandwich, right? Positive, negative, positive. So we didn't get the house, right? Hey, I've got some great news. There's a lot of beautiful homes out there that are meeting your criteria. The bad news is we you know, our offer got beat out. The good news is here's 3 homes that I think are going to match your criteria. Let's go check them out. When's a good time for you? So you layer the positive, then the negative, and then the positive.
Perfect. Who is your favorite movie or television character?
Kevin James. Everybody tells me I look like him.
Okay. Last one. This is from James Lipton.
I know it's supposed to be quick. My uncle looks like Bruce Willis. We're at the Cubs game, Wrigley Field, and we had people taking pictures with us. They thought I was Kevin James and he was Bruce Willis. Hilarious. All right, sorry.
Last one. If heaven exists, what would you like to hear God say to you when you arrive at the pearly gates?
Yeah, it does, and I'm hoping he says, I know you were hard on yourself, but nobody's perfect. We'll still take you.
I know that. Mike. Well, Mike, listen, you were as money as I thought you would be. You set the bar high for anyone that has to follow you in this endeavor, but it couldn't have been better to have you on as the first guest here. I want to just remind everybody that in my opinion, right now is the time to be going full bore. And we don't know what the world's going to look like as these months evolve, but we do know we have a great opportunity right now. And once again, Mike, thank you so much. It was awesome. And we'll see you next time. And thank you, everybody. Thanks, Mike.
Thank you.
See ya.
Thank you.